blood is running down my face, tears are forming in my eyes. Father always told me pain is temporary, keep in stride. Lift your head up, don't you cry. Fighters always will survive. The hurt you feel inside can only mean that you're alive. Keep your head down and digging. God will provide you vision and lead you where you need to be. If you just shut up and listen and ignore the opposition, they just want your position. They want to X you out like an atheist do to Christ and Christmas. So don't ever stray away from this path that you'll create. Get that tunnel vision, don't you quit, keep working every day. So I made a promise to myself that when I hear that final bell, I'ma give it everything that I got. And I told God I will not fail until I'm on my deathbed and I'm staring into heaven's eyes. I will never let nobody else control my life. I'ma wake up and I'll take what's mine. Ain't no way I'll wait in line. Life is moving way too fast for me to be stuck back in time. You can take away everything that I ever worked for. I'ma keep on pushing till I earn more. I won't never fall. Won't never break. Won't never crack. Won't never flip. Won't never stop. Won't never lack. Won't never call it quits. Call it quits. You can try to hold me back, but I'll always find my own way. Cause I am a beast that you won't tame. I won't never fall. Won't never break. Won't never crack. Won't never flip. Won't never stop. Won't never lack. Won't never call it quits. Call it quits.
You can tell, just look in the sky, the angels are near. Came out the gutter with Pennywise, I was facing my fears. I made it out the streets, even though I was left to die. Still I sprouted out the concrete despite the pesticides. Somehow I bloomed to a beautiful rose. I was consumed with the blues, such a musical soul. This industry is full of hardships and politics, but I will never call it quits. In fact, I want all of it. You see fire in my eyes, even though I'm criticized. I have been vilified, belittled and minimized. If you ever dealt with depression, I really empathize. Promise you the more money you make, the shit intensifies. Ludicrous, I deal with all these Judases in service. Mama said you entertain the clown and you become the circus. So tell them, Crip, we ain't stopping. Promise you will never change. We gon' be this fucking way until they put us in a grave.
You can take away everything that I ever worked for. I'ma keep on pushing till I earn more. I won't never fall. Won't never break. Won't never crack. Won't never flip. Won't never stop. Won't never lack. Won't never call it quits. Call it quits. You can try to hold me back, but I'll always find my own way. Cause I am a beast that you won't tame. I won't never fall. Won't never break. Won't never crack. Won't never flip. Won't never stop. Won't never lack. Won't never call it quits. Call it quits.
Biggie said it best, more money, more problems. Wake up, Papa Xanax, hard pill to swallow. I don't ever follow, take the road less traveled, never know. See tomorrow, that's a whole nother battle. Take these little pills I'm popping, depression it gets to stopping. My mental builds up these toxins where the ending is an option. I'm just talking real life, you just talking shit, looking for a click or a like. Out the ground grew a rose in the middle of the weeds. I've been down this old road in the middle of the street. I'm screaming, Lord help me with these demons. I'm just trying to figure out my purpose or a meaning. Lately it just seems like the same old, same old. Pill pop and watch them go down like Drano. You still watching even though I feel insane. No, I ain't trying to kill myself, Kurt Cobain.
You can take away everything that I ever worked for. I'ma keep on pushing till I earn more. I won't never fall. Won't never break. Won't never crack. Won't never flip. Won't never stop. Won't never lack. Won't never call it quits. Call it quits. You can try to hold me back, but I'll always find my own way. Cause I am a beast that you won't tame. I won't never fall. Won't never break. Won't never crack. Won't never flip. Won't never stop. Won't never lack. Won't never call it quits. Call it quits.
So I keep trying to tell you guys, you gotta listen through the intro music. Like 10 people was like, yo, Suze hit the intro music. It's like, where did y'all go? There's reasons for all of these songs. Nobody listens to it. If you hit that big link with your phone, if you're not on your phone, since Threeper wanted to be a pain in the ass while we was waiting to go live, if you scan that with your phone, you can join Discord. You'd have known that there's an Easter egg to the song. So pay attention to it, think about it, look at the old videos. There's an Easter egg in every single video I've dropped since I came back. So, have fun. How's everybody doing? We've got Threeper here. As always, we're going to start it off like we've been, like I told you we were going to. Every single week, I'm going to feature one song. Well, this is where you take over.
Oh.
I mean, like,
Well, I mean, like, you were talking. I didn't know if you had anything else to say.
I mean, I literally, like, I tossed the hand at you and everything.
Well,
it was like,
okay, it's a slow day. My mind's just a little foggy. So the song that I wanted Vet to show y'all today is called "I Got Your Six," and this is part of it is toward Vet himself,
Oh, I was
and
hoping you weren't gonna say that.
Well, I mean, like, it's a good song. It's a good song. And then the another half is toward anybody that listens to it.
All right, I'm liking that. I just want to say, before we start anything, I want to say what up to everybody. Kaizi, Muhammad, Aliyah, you're in here always. Kabaka, 065, you know, that's what I called you. Alex Gentano, I knew you was going to be here. Hey, what's going on? Back to school, what's going on?
Finally, he shows up.
There he is. I was wondering if he was going to be here. We was already at 27 viewers. We've got a goal of 100 viewers at one time. See if we can hit it today. I don't know if we can. Maybe we could. But, no, it's not a diss track, I don't think, Back to School. I don't think he wants to embarrass himself like that. But what I do want you to do is stick around, because there is 3 episodes. Damn, I can't speak this afternoon. 3 episodes. See, you messed me up again, man. Shh. First one is my most popular video I have. Now, I'm not going to say the name because I can't pronounce it, but if you have been following me, you know what history from Sabaton we're getting today. It is the biggest song that I have. Most watched, most popular, all around. So we're going on with that. 1648, Part 1, 30-Year War. Have you done your homework?
So this is where I'm going to throw you under the bus.
I knew this was coming.
Because Vet literally didn't have anything set out an hour and a half beforehand. It literally took, I mean, like, it took us an hour to set up and for him to find everything that we were going to do today.
Mia,
I can't do my homework on things you don't tell me.
Mia, I'm disappointed. No. I'll just say no. But yes, no, I did not honestly know what I was doing, and I had to go look at the playlist. I had to figure out which ones I did last weekend, and it was a mess right before, and then we were good. And then I realized that the scheme of my most popular video, 1648 Part 1 and 1648 Part 2, War and Diseases, they all scheme in together. And like I said, if you've been following me for long enough, and if you've watched every Sabaton episode, you definitely know which song this is. But I'll do an attempt for it because it definitely hit me. And Mia, I'm disappointed because you were there. And Liv Stid I Krieg. Did I pronounce it right? That is the history channel we will be watching first, after we listen to Raven's little song here. So we're just going to let this play through. It's 2 minutes, 29 seconds. Stay. It's okay. The song will be over. He'll explain everything. We'll get on to the Sabaton history lessons. It's here. See the emblem. We're getting there. We've got all afternoon. You guys got all evening. Where you going? Let's chill, hang out, talk. Oh, I just missed the I. I got it close. I forget how the I is pronounced. See, I got it close, Raven. I should get a star for the day.
Maybe a silver star. I don't know. You still have to fight the inflatable flailing arm too, man.
Oh, God. I knew he was going to bring the inflatable arm, man. Yeah, if you were in Discord, you know about that one, too. Kabaka.
Yeah.
We've got to stop it, man. All right, we're going to get going.
We all need a battle buddy when fighting mental health. It gets hard sometimes.
Hey, Captain Cumshot. Hey, what's going on, brother? Thank you. I appreciate it. Welcome.
I'm like a flower that doesn't get enough rain. If you could see under my skin, would you see my pain? Do the scars on my arms show the hell I've seen? Do you see these shackles and chains? Try to get up, but get beaten down instead. Lost mindlessly searching, drowning in an ocean. This anxiety is a mess. Feels like I was chased by something. A monster in the corner trying to hurt me again. And it's the same for a brother of mine. Just know I got your 6 if you got mine. We got sick tricks, you know we can win this war. You're my battle buddy, you know I'm ready for what's in store. And even though I never served, I know I'm yours too. And I'm right now, brother, Reaper's calling me from the other side, waiting for me to cross over to guide me away. Help me take a stride in the right direction, cause Lord knows I've tried. And I don't wanna backslide, but all of these feelings I hide on the inside are vicious, tearing me apart. Now I've applied all I know, even started some new things. Thought my problems would be simplified, running from the issue, feeling a little mortified. Would anyone believe the hell we both seen? Even though they are different, it doesn't change the facts. And man, I'm feeling really close to a relapse, so could you really help me out right now? Like a flower that doesn't get enough rain. If you could see under my skin, would you see my pain? Do the scars on my arms show the hell I've seen? Do you see these shackles and chains? Try to get up but get beaten down instead. Lost mindlessly searching, drowning in an ocean. This anxiety is a mess, feels like I was chased by something. A monster in the corner trying to hurt me again, not wanting to go there again.
Better than last week's.
Yeah, this is something we fight every day, an unseen war under our skin. We try to fight for peace within ourselves. It's hard sometimes, but that's why I got your 6 and you got mine. And all we have to do is combine our strength and not let our weaknesses define us, because that's not who we are. And we aren't the only ones who battle a war on the inside, so take a ride with me. I have your 6 if you got mine. We can work together to fix the pain of yesterday, work on a future for a better day. Everyone needs a battle buddy when fighting mental illness, someone who has your 6 through thick and thin, picks you up when you fall down. There is no quick fix for a problem, it's a battle every day. And by having the strength to get through it, we can't stay lost forever. This is a battle we fight, we need to win at any cost. There is no surrender, looking for one hell of an amen.
Wow. Well.
Yeah, I had chills, man.
Yeah.
I loved making that song.
That's a good song. You definitely, that was your best one yet. I agree. I mean, it really was. Just to be honest.
And I have to be honest, Vet, you're the one who gave me the idea for the song. For some of y'all that don't know, Vet's looking to get his v3tReacts tattoo. And me and him are going to go meet up, and I'm going to get a tattoo the same day he starts getting his.
Which that's going to be live, by the way.
Yeah, that will be live, and I'll be cameraman for that. So stay tuned for that here in a little while, couple months. But Vet was like, I was looking to do a mental health tattoo, and he brought up I Got Your 6, and I'm like, that's an awesome song to make, and to make the song and then get a tattoo that represents the song that I make is what I was going for with that.
I mean, it's definitely a good reason to get it for sure. I mean, it makes sense to me. And to answer your question, Captain Cumshot, no, I don't think it's too early. I mean, I love it whenever everybody's around. It's never required, but it definitely makes it more hype. I'm excited for this first lesson because I've been wanting to do it for so long because it took off so much that, I mean, I had no idea that I was going to get the numbers on this song that I got because of the emotion I felt from the crowd, from the venue. Like, this song, Raven, is just so powerful, and I didn't even listen to it in English. No subtitles, nothing.
And you could feel it?
And I felt it. And it was just the pride that was shown in that venue was just insane. And then that's when I met Mia. And Mia said she was there. And we was talking about that. And that's why I like having the Discord. And that's where we all can talk. We chat. We mess around with gifts. We have fun. What's up, Wesley? How's it going on? Oh, you can tell? Oh, they're releasing a new song on Friday. Uh-oh. Thank you for that, Wesley. But like we're all here for, we're going to get into it. And lifted I Creek. So, let's go.
Jag heter Indy Nidell.
Och det här är Jocke från Sabaton och detta är Sabaton History.
Jajamän. 30-åriga kriget var ett av de största krigen i världshistorien som kostade miljoner liv.
Och vår låt Livstid i krig är in...
Can you keep up?
Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Can somebody tell me if this whole thing's in Swedish? Oh man, what did I get myself
like we're
into?
reading.
All right, open the eyes and glue them to the screen.
Inte bara på ett annat språk, utan det är också en helt annan personlig vinkling. Vi har redan gjort det här på engelska, så nu kör vi på svenska.
I picked the Swedish one. Oh God.
Well, this is for the Swedes out there. I like that guitar.
Från det 16:e seklet fram till mitten av 1700-talet levde svenska kungens folk mer eller mindre en livstid i krig. Det var en kamp som började med att säkra kronans länder och sen utvecklade sig till erövringskrig och intervention i kontinentala händelser. Och om du råkade vara en invandrare...
Hold on, I can't do it. Hold on. I need... Back to school, please. Find me the English version, quick. We're going to keep everybody entertained back to school. Put this in my inbox on Discord, quick. I need it. I can't keep up with the subtitles.
Like I'm like trying to listen to what he's saying in Swedish and then trying to read, and my brain's just like unwiring itself.
Nobody popped it in general chat yet. Yeah, so hurry up, back to school. Come on, let's go. Apologies.
So, flailing arm, inflatable tube man.
Care to explain that, Kabaka? You know it.
Yes, Kabaka, you in chat?
Yeah, I know. I know we've got our scheme today. It's all the 30-year war. If you all know that, and you got this first song, you've got 1648, and then you've got part 1 with the 30-year war, and then you've got 1648 part 2, which is war and diseases, which is more in depth into that 30-year war and some of the things that were going on to it, with my assumption so far. And back to school, I am still waiting. You are slow. Somebody else did it before you did. Wow. You're fired. 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 I can't see. I gotta figure out how to pronounce his name. I can't do it. Hold on.
I'm in the...
There we go. Now I know who you are. Alright, good. Look, we actually gained viewers while we were waiting for the English version. If you just joined, I picked the Swedish version of this song first, and I wasn't quite sure that I was doing that. I guess I should have paid attention and maybe had something more than...
See, Vet, this is why you don't try and cram everything an hour before the live.
I was just about to say that. If you didn't have to point that out for me. Thank you. Alright, let's go. We'll take 2.
I'm Indy Nidell.
And I'm Per from Sabaton, and this is Sabaton History.
Alright, let's see. In Livstid I Krig. Just say yes or no.
The 30 Years' War, 400 years ago, pitted Catholic Europe against Protestant.
Oh, this was the wrong link. See? Fail.
Oh.
I already have that link. That's not the one I'll get it.
So how's everybody's evening over there across the pond?
There you go, Raven. Keep them busy.
Hope it's going pretty good.
Hurry up, they can't know that I'm
They
looking.
can hear you.
No, they can't.
Yes, they can.
I didn't mute myself.
Hey.
Yes, they can. Shh. So keep talking. You're killing me, Smalls.
Yeah.
And it's killing me that back to school still hasn't given me that.
Yeah,
link.
let's talk about how back to school has failed twice. I mean, like,
Sorry for the loud clicks. There's no loud clicks. There's nothing happening at all right now. See, these things happen. This is what happens with lives. They, people mess up. It's okay.
there is some good news. Vet did get his new mouse today,
Yes, I did.
and Vet is very happy. He can do mouse things now.
Yeah, but I can't.
You'll hit the-
I can't do find the English version of this things now.
That's a personal problem.
Yeah, I guess that does sound like a us problem right now because, it's only us trying to figure it out.
Yeah, back to school still being a little lazy, I think.
Is this the... Let's see if attempt number 2 is it. Yo, what the heck? This is not the...
So do we just go back to the Swedish version?
You know what? I think we're gonna have to. I mean, we're... Because back to school is fired. And
Pretty much.
I'm not finding it even searching for English. But keep talking, Raven.
Kabaka says that is the English version.
What the... Okay. So that's... Okay, so alright. Let's see. That's why I was confused. Thank you, bro. Thank you. I love having you around. Love it. Love it. Alright, here we go.
In Europe.
And 30 years was pretty much what you would call a lifetime. A lifetime of war.
Two ways to view the world, so similar at times. Two ways to rule the world, to justify their crimes.
Starting with the Protestant
Yeah, I was still
Reformation,
looking for the
kicked off a
Swedish
century
name.
earlier.
It's...
By 1618, the Holy Roman Empire had grown
Maybe
deeply
you should-
divided into Protestant, Lutheran, and Catholic territories. But this mostly German empire, even though in reality more of a multicultural patchwork of many duchies and dioceses, was still technically an empire ruled by a single emperor of the Habsburg dynasty, and it was his duty to uphold the peace and the rights of his subjects. Emperor Ferdinand, however, who had promised religious freedom to the aristocracy upon his coronation, was going
Sean
back
Bond.
on his word and now pursued a new policy of
Hey, Sean Bond,
re-Catholicization
what's going
of
on?
his crown lands. In mainly Protestant Bohemia, this meant closing down Protestant churches and empowering the lesser Catholic clergy once
Yeah,
again.
I couldn't see the check.
For the
Hey,
Bohemians,
Catherine
this did
Johnson.
not just threaten the open practice of their
Hey,
religion,
Kate,
but the
thank you.
actual
I
real
appreciate
power
it.
of the mainly Protestant landowners. As their protests were
Good to see
repeatedly
you in the
ignored,
chat.
powerful Bohemian aristocrats finally came together against Habsburg rule. In Prague, the Bohemian capital, on May 23rd, 1618, they took action
Throw
and
people
threw
out
the
the
imperial
windows.
officials.
Hey, Sean Bond, what's going on? We got a little train going right now. How's it going? Fist bump. Hey, there you go,
Fist
brother.
bump.
Fist bump. Appreciate it, homie.
Out of the window. Yep.
What's
this
going
was the
on, frickin'
second
frackin'?
defenestration of Prague. The word comes from Fenster, the German word for window. So to defenestrate is to chuck someone out of one. Okay,
They literally
with
chuck
this
people at windows.
symbolic defenestration, they had
Must I remind you of the throwing flying testicles into the street thing? And you're surprised that people are
Hey,
getting
but
thrown out of
we're getting
windows?
somewhere. There's no testicles in the streets. It's people at windows now.
Well, yeah. Now we're just getting full bodies. We're getting there.
in actual fact, openly declared war on the authority of the empire. For the Czech patriots and anti-Habsburg radicals, this was a welcome chance to take up arms. Rebellious provinces sprang up all over. They secretly raised militias and hastily organized detachments
way to
of
do it.
Bohemians, Moravians, Hungarians, Silesians, and hired mercenaries fell on imperial outposts and blocked their supply lines, hoping to gather support from yet other provinces with a series of quick successes. Protestant rebels even stormed the Hofburg in Vienna in an attempt to physically seize the emperor and force him to sign their demands. The rebels rejected Ferdinand and the imperial constitution and wanted a commonwealth of their own, like that of Poland and Lithuania, led by their own king and a constitutional monarchy. Their uprising failed, however, as the Habsburg emperor was not without friends and support. Imperial propaganda portrayed the Bohemian uprising as arch treachery that disturbed the peace of the empire, and many staunchly Catholic dukes pledged their allegiance to the emperor. Ferdinand had been caught off guard, sure, but he had no intention of giving up the crowns of Hungary or Bohemia, which might even jeopardize the structural integrity of his whole empire. And he was determined to go on the offensive, to quell the rebellion with fire and...
You gotta be kidding me, Smalls.
On 6th of
Hey,
May,
it happened last
2003.
week. It's gonna happen this week.
That's
and we got
okay.
long episodes.
Yeah.
sword.
It's a part of... I've just got to say it is so weird for me to hear the English version of this. It really...
Well, I haven't heard either. So...
Well, yeah, you haven't heard the English version, but it's only given us pieces of it, and I don't know which part of the song. Oh my God, Alex, you joined in. No, it's just weird for me to hear this in English because I reacted to it, in Swedish, and I felt the power of it. But now I actually get to experience it. Hey, it's all right, Miss Frackin'. We're here to have some fun. Hey, hit that like button, share button, get more people in here. Let's have fun all around. Let's go. Maybe we'll even do another episode. Who knows? I got it pulled up. I was already searching. We can go.
The war itself
something
seems
was your
at
fault,
first
Irvin,
like
so I agree.
localized rebellions over cultural and religious differences. But in reality, it revolved around the future of the Holy Roman Empire, which was the primary Christian religion. Who had...
Yeah, I get that now, Kissy. I was looking... I realized what I did wrong.
the power, the emperor or the dukes and their possessions, political unity under one belief, or even more fragmentation with religious liberty. Ferdinand's strongest ally came from Bavaria. The zealous Duke Maximilian re-established the Liga, a covenant of Catholics, and raised an army with the blessing of the papacy. Under the command of his paladin, the Count of Tilly, they were eager to take the fight to the Protestants and forced them to battle in late 1620. The Battle of White Mountain was one of the first major engagements of the war, and one of the most decisive ones. Tilly's forces, better led and supplied than their enemies, won a major victory and then took Prague that winter. But as kings and dukes quarreled over cities, estates, and property rights, for the common people living in Prague and the villages along the trail of armies, the horrors that accompanied war became reality. And this was not a temporary situation, because this war is called the 30 Years' War, because that's how long it lasted. And it is often said about the war that the longer it went on, the more the violence and cruelty intensified. But really, the seeds of uncontrolled violence were already planted in the early stages. Discipline among the common soldiers was usually pretty low, and more so on the side of the rebels. Irregular forces particularly raged among the local populations. Polish skirmishers, Hungarian raiders, and Croatian cavalrymen terrorized panicked peasants and refugee
Fernando,
colonies.
it's all right, man. We're just getting started.
Roamed
We're only 5
alongside
minutes
the
in the
marching
first
armies,
episode.
and the enlisted soldiers
Got 3
were
to go,
often
maybe
not
more.
much better behaved. Especially after long and dangerous sieges, when pumped up and often drunk soldiers had been forced to storm a city under fire, they would afterwards take out their rage and fear on the locals. From house to house, they plundered and stole everything they could carry. If they did not find anything, or if others were quicker than they were, because it was first come, first serve when it came to plundering, they would turn on the helpless citizens. Men, women, and even children were brutally tortured for the slightest chance of hidden valuables.
Okay,
Since
so
this was often the only way the
worst thing
soldiers
they've
could
done
make
for this
actual
war.
money.
No, it went on for... there's 2 parts to the next.
Well, he said it. Like, as the war progressed, it got more violent. And it started with people being thrown out windows, but now we're torturing kids.
Well, they were grimy, bro. What do you want me to say? humanity
it's just an
had
interesting
some
history
dark
lesson.
times. Yeah, like it's crazy.
To feed and equip themselves and their families, they could not afford to show mercy. Many simply embraced boundless, unchecked violence as a new way of life. The fall of Prague
And they had to
marked the
do it
collapse of the
to
Bohemian
survive. That's the
Confederation, but the
craziest
war
thing.
itself obviously did not end, as the
Fernando,
triumphant
that's what they
Ferdinand
said.
failed to take advantage of his victory. He would not listen to any compromise of his demands to restore his full authority. There was no chance for religious equality after the revolt, and instead, he condemned captured rebels to an agonizing death, while the escaped ringleaders were under an imperial ban.
Yeah, war is hell.
Together with
You're
the
absolutely
confiscation
right,
and
Kabaka.
distribution of rebel property. This just further escalated the war and drove many
Or
new
Kabaka,
Protestant champions
Kabaka.
to the cause of the rebellion. The war that began as a rather localized conflict in the east and center of the empire spread to the north in the 1620s. Imperial and Liga forces entered the zones of influence and interest of other great powers. In 1625, Danish King Christian declared war on the empire to secure his influence in northern Germany and portray himself as a Protestant savior. The Hanseatic
It's
League
still-
outright refused cooperation with the emperor and insisted on its autonomy and neutrality. The Polish sovereign Sigismund, on the other
Right.
hand,
I get
was
that, Mr.
sympathetic to the
Frickin'
imperial
Frickin'.
cause and introduced the Cossacks to European warfare, but also attracted the attention of the Swedes.
crossbow?
In 1630, under
It
the
looked
king,
like just a
Lion of the
regular
North,
longbow.
Gustav Adolf, they set out to
Recurve.
secure their interest in the Baltics. A strong Catholic influence in the north could not be tolerated by the ambitious House of Vasa, while Spain, themselves busy with Calvinist rebels, also sent out troops to help the Imperials. The French,
Quebec,
who would rather see a
side.
fragmented Protestant Germany than a unified Catholic one, at first supported the northern forces with money, until in 1635, to prevent a peace treaty, they entered the war themselves. The war grew and grew.
Did that was that Sweden that did that? Why y'all you
Savages.
As did the
Savage
armies,
ass.
as did death and suffering. New knights appeared on the chessboard. Rich and ambitious men like von Mansfeld or Wallenstein aimed to get even richer through the war. Von Mansfeld tried to establish his own legend in the defense of Protestant liberty, while Wallenstein on the opposing side raised thousands of men for the emperor in his own pursuit of elevating his status among the nobility. War was business. War gave common but ambitious men a chance to rise in society.
There you go, right there. War is business, and that's still that way today. That's crazy that in the 1500s, that war was still business. 1600s, that is just a
I don't have words
business.
for it. I mean, it's just vicious. Vicious business.
Experienced mercenary groups traveled from engagement to engagement and fought for the highest bidder. But the way to the top was paved with the blood and lives of thousands, then millions of men. Killing
No, there is no good
had
guys.
become a normality, and authority broke down everywhere as the war expanded. Harvests were confiscated, cattle were slaughtered, people starved on the streets, and besieged cities even resorted to cannibalism. Peasants took to guerrilla fighting and formed robbery gangs and militias to fight off the
We're taking the
marauders.
Rocky Mountain
But
oysters
the
to a
major
whole new
killer
level.
was disease. Where armies go, sickness follows. And for every battle, thousands more died of a variety of diseases like plague or Hungarian fever. Rodents bred in the crowded
War and
cities.
disease.
Wolves roamed the countryside, and cats and dogs disappeared in the kitchen. Religious hatred rallied religious zealotry, and many captured priests and nuns were murdered and mutilated. Popular acts of barbarism included pulling ropes so tight around people's necks that their eyes popped out. The Schwedentrunk was especially
Yeah,
disgusting,
that's true,
forcing
yeah.
the victim to swallow large amounts of liquid excrement. Another fun game was to make criminals or deserters gamble for their lives and punishments. The lucky throw of dice would decide if a man lost a hand, his tongue, or his life. trees were full of the other unlucky ones.
Nope. I'm not playing that game of dice.
No.
There are
I don't wanna be
only
in the tree.
estimates as to how many people died, as records naturally lack specific data. The highest estimates are of a death rate of 40% of the population compared to the pre-war population numbers within the empire. But even with the lower, nowadays more often accepted numbers of around 15%,
Yeah, right, Fernando.
we speak of a war that was possibly, or even likely, the deadliest that ever raged in Europe by percentage, including both world wars.
Yo, Europe, you were
In the
savage.
public
No wonder
conscience,
we
it was
beat
not
the United
only
States.
a war, though, but a 30-year tragedy that ravaged the German lands and killed so many people, it would take many decades to replenish those lost. A whole generation of people lived through 30 years of war. From when they were born until when they were up to 30 years old, they knew no life but constant war and
That's
terror.
insane.
And there were even soldiers that served from the beginning in 1618 to the end in 1648, often in different armies on changing sides, but still serving. And who could have predicted that the war would last so long? Between all the religious ideals and politics, who could have made sense of all the violence? Who could have avoided it? Who wanted to and who didn't? There was plenty of time to answer such questions. 30 years. 30 long years of war.
It's almost, never mind.
So, Per,
Oh, I
what are we going to
recognize
see
that
now?
cadence.
We have some really
Okay.
amazing footage that pretty much nobody have seen. We shot a music video for a Lifetime Award.
Yeah.
Very few people know about it because nobody have seen it.
I didn't know about it. I haven't seen it.
I have not seen it because actually the footage was lost.
Well, lost? Like somebody left it on a train or something?
And no, the guy disappeared. The guy who filmed it, he disappeared.
I'm sorry, that's
and
funny.
until today, we have not been able to obtain the original footage.
Okay.
So
So if he's out there, maybe he can return the footage?
that would be great.
That'd be great.
But until then,
Yeah?
we actually had our fantastic fan club in Poland, the Polish Panzer Battalion, who were there with us
Okay.
when we were shooting this. And
Too
they
much on the
helped
lower.
us to produce kind of behind the scenes of this.
Okay, during the video.
Yeah. What we're gonna see now is pretty much behind the scenes of a music video that never
Nobody's
became
ever
a-
seen.
Hold up. That pyrotechnic, like, blew his freaking head off.
much behind the scenes of a music video
Watch
that
it.
never
Nobody's
became
ever
a-
seen.
No, it blew
I feel dirty. So fucking dirty.
Okay, well, and there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you enjoyed that today. I certainly enjoyed it. That was totally new for me,
And that was supposed to be the music video
chills.
for a Lifetime
I
Award,
just
which
felt,
never
I
happened.
which
recognize
never
it.
happened. And maybe one day we will actually get to see that video if that guy brings back the
Resurface.
footage. Okay, well, thank you very much for
Maybe,
today,
who
Per.
knows?
We'll see you next time on Sabaton History.
Man.
That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Sabaton History Channel. There will be another
Stick
one
around, we
every
got more.
week until we run out of songs. It's gonna take a while. So until then, enjoy it, support us, become subscribers, become patrons, and see you soon.
Sabaton.
Alright, there we go. We made through that one with one ad. Now, there's 53
Now on to the
viewers,
next episode.
17 likes. Let's hit that like button, let's do the share. I want everybody chatting. I want to see who's all here. Say what's up. I want to like to interact in between these things, and I like to say what I've learned. Now, what did you learn from that?
Swedes are still vicious.
Yeah,
Very
Swedes are
savage.
vicious. They're savage, you know.
And man, like knowing the 30 Years War was 30 years and all about like how vicious that war was. I didn't realize how vicious the 30 Years' War was.
Oh, I mean, it was said in chat perfect. It's like after so long of you being at war, I mean, you just kind of get into that mentality where it's like you're a savage and it's like you're a brutal person, but it's really, like they said, they're doing it to survive. They're doing it to feed their families. They're doing it to, you know, for their own set reasons. And it's all they knew for that whole generation. Now, for anybody that hasn't been around, didn't hear what the list was, this is 1648, the history lesson, part 1, the 30-Year War. This whole thing has a theme. Stick around for it. We also got part 2, of course, war and disease. They did mention that right at the end of the last one, so I did hint around that that was the third one. And who knows? We'll see what's going on when we get to the end of that one. That's a 20-minute episode. But we're going to tempt fate with this one right now. 1648, part 1, the 30-Year War.
Let's get it.
30 Years War. Excuse me.
1648 was the end of the 30 Years' War, but it was still a year of war.
And surprise, we've written a song about it.
After nearly 30 years of constant war, of plundered cities and millions of lives lost, the warring factions were finally willing to return to the negotiation table in late 1646. No matter which side or which religion, pretty much all duchies and estates were just sick of the war by now. Not only of all the misery and the economic collapse of vast stretches of the Holy Roman Empire, but the increasing futility and absurdity of the ceaseless, endless struggle. Many felt that it was long past the time that the war had achieved any meaningful political goals, and now it was just about the interests of individuals. Even the majority of the German Protestants and those allied with Sweden and France, who admittedly wanted the grip of the Habsburg emperors loosened, even they realized there was no real alternative to Habsburg rule if they wanted to keep the empire alive in any meaningful sense. All within the empire distrusted all foreign powers by now, after the devastation that had followed their armies marching time and again through the countryside, through their homes. So, both the Catholics and the Protestants wanted to settle things. In Westphalia, in the western part of the empire, the Catholics met at Münster and the Protestants at Osnabrück to debate possibilities of a fruitful peace. They sent each other envoys and letters, arguing about a common future within the empire. The Swedes were interested in northern Germany, with possessions that could safeguard the Swedish realm. Most of the northern German states...
Yeah, Alex, that's a freaky image. Oh, Wesley, someone said we should use them in psychological warfare. I could see it.
Yeah, especially since this one was in color and the one for our last episode was in black and white. It does pop it a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
Had little choice but to pay tribute or to ally themselves with the Swedes, since the military might of the Emperor Ferdinand III was too weak to help them. By now, the
Real quick, back to school. Can you throw in the Discord link for anybody that can't scan the link above Raven's head into the chat for me real quick? Thank you, brother.
military balance had clearly swung towards his enemies. The armies of Sweden and France now outnumbered the Habsburg forces in the south, while the emperor's alliance with Maximilian of Bavaria
so France and Sweden were working together in this war.
Sweden was that big at one point. That's like, they were that powerful. And you guys are bullies.
Tatters. The Swedish army was still the mightiest in Germany, bolstered by many German regiments with around 63,000 men at arms. The second powerful were the French, whose interests in the empire were far more complex than simply securing their own borders. They wanted the empire to bleed, but at the same time needed to preserve the Catholic influence in Central Europe. This way, they opportunistically fought with and against the Swedes, and with or against German duchies and contingents,
pretty much,
depending on the strategic situation.
That's the way
Cardinal
it is.
Mazarin, who represented the French in Westphalia, wanted to expand French territory, sure, but more importantly, felt the need to cut Habsburg ties to Spain, which had just signed a truce with the Netherlands after 80 years of war. The next few months were ones of constant debate. The big powers and the German cities, the estates, the dukes, the knights, they all had their demands and all wanted to have a say. They quarreled over jurisdiction rights, about compensation for war damages, about border lines on the map, who would pay for the troops to leave, who would pay for them to stay, who was rightfully owed money, which unfilled promises, threats, and boasts were still cause for concern. It was about reputation, about succession and hierarchy in the empire, about new alliances and old feuds, about persecution and amnesty. Radicals and moderates tried to find a solution in religious matters and the property of the church. Militarist Calvinists wanted to fight on to the end, while radical Catholics argued that a peace that enslaves souls is worse than a war that just kills the body. It was a nightmare of haggling and bickering about the future of Central Europe. And if we were to try and explain everything, we would be sitting here until the next Sabaton album comes out. But while everyone was debating and arguing, there was one man who was not the talkative kind, and instead relied upon the ways of the warlord. Swedish Field Marshal Carl Gustav Wrangel had taken command over the Swedish forces in Germany. Not wanting to sit twiddling his thumbs while peace was on the horizon, he set out against the southern coalition into Franconia. Wrangel's tactics were by now common practices. He inflicted terror throughout the countryside by razing whole villages, shooting churches to pieces, trampling crops and fruit trees into the dirt, and of course the usual excessive amount of murdering and raping among the common folk who were unfortunate enough to stand in the way.
We got another ad. That's 2.
Wow, they completely decimated the landscape as they marched through.
Yeah, that's unnecessary. It really is. I mean, us being outdoorsmen, that's definitely unnecessary.
Way of his army.
While you don't speak of peace, all over battle seas, there's a man who aims for more than he can reach. All over, on fire, all over him, you're set ablaze. Stand on the road.
Wrangel raided deeper into northern Bavaria, besieging and bombarding cities as he went. He plundered those he was strong enough to take, arguing that the more he could harm the Catholics, the weaker the imperial position would be at the negotiation table. Wrangel was obsessed with the booty and the treasure of the rich aristocracy and clerics, since that was how he and his officers made their living. Maximilian and Ferdinand were well aware of that, and in turn hoped to bolster their forces enough once more to drive a wedge into the Swedish forces descending on their territory. The Battle of Zusmarshausen, though, in May 1648, ended with a Swedish victory, as the Imperials and Bavarians only escaped total destruction with maybe a few thousand men left. And with the Empire badly defeated on the battlefield, the Swedes wanted one more shining victory. Under Field Marshal von Königsmark, they set their sights on Prague, where the whole war had started 30 years ago. A cynic would not have missed the irony in it all. As the Swedish army passed the old battlefield of the White Mountain, where the first battle of the war had been fought, the final one would be fought nearby. Bohemia had long since been drained of troops, and Prague, though still a jewel in the empire, was only held by a small garrison, now under the command of Imperial Field Marshal von Colloredo. The story goes that a disgruntled imperial lieutenant colonel, who had lost his arm in service of the empire, showed the Swedes where the city's defensive works were the weakest, and 100 Swedes overpowered the defenders on the western side of the river Moldau and gained entry into the little town of Prague. The gates were open for the main host, and a terrible plundering began. The old fortress Hradčany was taken, and the Swedes marauded through that half of the city. But city gates across the river were barred, and citizens and students there took up arms. In defiant firefights, they stopped the Swedish troops who came charging over the Charles Bridge. Colloredo's garrison and Prague's people were determined to defend the old town. 3 times in this war, Prague had opened its gates to foreign invaders. 3 times they had suffered. Enough was enough.
The road to the city's been blocked, denied to enter the gates. No, they tried. When Prague was called to arms, they fought them on the bridge. The freedom was at stake.
Königsmark soon realized that this was a tougher nut to crack than he had anticipated. But over the coming weeks, new Swedish contingents would arrive from Silesia and Saxony, drawn by the prospect of loot, while small imperial forces also snuck into the city to bolster the defenses. Even as 3 Swedish armies simultaneously attacked, one led by the Crown Prince Carl Gustaf himself, who had arrived to make his mark, the determined defensive line would not be broken. From July to October, the siege dragged on.
Jeez.
The situation for the defenders looked bleaker than ever. Colloredo knew that the inhabitants of Prague would face a terrible fate if the walls were taken. So every able man was expected to stand by the barricades, while women and children helped out wherever they could, putting out fires and caring for the wounded. It was all or nothing. Rich or poor, prince or pauper, they all fought together.
I don't know, Mia. I'm
They
wondering the
would
same
suffer
thing.
together
Hey,
if
there
they
they go.
failed.
Boom, 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 boom.
On October
Let's
6th,
go.
the offensive
Let's
was
get more
renewed.
people
The
in here.
Swedes
We
were
got a
now
goal of
building
100
their own
viewers.
bridge over the Moldau, attacking the
Don't
Galgen
forget
Gate
to
with
join the
all their
Discord.
might.
Back to
For
school,
2
put
days,
in
they
the link.
bombed it.
Come chill with me and Vet after the show.
And back to school. He always forgets to
And
put
back to
him
school.
damn self in there for some reason. I hope everybody's enjoying this. I'm learning a lot. And Isaiah, yeah, I'm sticking with the theme of the 30-year war.
Until the gaps in it were large enough for the Swedish storm attack. Taking heavy casualties, the attackers eventually forced their way into the city. Only a desperate charge of Colloredo's reserve drove the Swedes out of the city once more. Then, on October 24th, 1648, the news spread like wildfire through the empire. Peace had been signed. The arguing, the debating in Westphalia had finally come to a conclusion. A 70-gun salute at Osnabrück proclaimed the end of the 30 Years' War. On the 25th, though, the Swedes attacked once more. If they ignored the peace treaty for just a few days more, they could go home as rich men. But the desperate and exhausted defenders of Prague would once again deny entry to their city. By the day's end, 800 Swedes lay dead before the breaches in walls and gates. It was not until November 5th, as a large imperial contingent appeared outside of Prague, that the frustrated Swedes began to retreat. The siege was broken. Prague had prevailed. In the peace treaties of Osnabrück and Münster that concluded the 30 Years' War, all factions had found a compromise that would guarantee a lasting peace for Central Europe. A new imperial constitution acknowledged the rights of the Protestants while keeping the Habsburg Emperor in power. Sweden and France profited as well from the weakness of the empire and extended their influence over Germany. There were smaller disagreements, of course, like who was the rightful owner of Alsace-Lorraine.
Oh, you're good, man.
And they remained
I appreciate
unsolved,
it.
but this
Let's
would
get hype
surely
in
be
here. Let's
solved
hit them
sometime
like
soon,
buttons.
right? I mean, of course.
It's do it.
It's
If
not
you're
like
new
it would
here,
be
hit
an
the
issue
sub
for
button. Let's
hundreds
go.
of years or anything. Wait, what? Yeah. Oh. Well, how about that? Okay. Well, that is all in the future. For now, all that counted was that 30 years of war, 30 of the most brutal years our world has ever seen, were over. And Central Europe was at peace.
Really? 2? Man. They hit us with 2.
Well, I mean, it happens.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. You guys come here. It's the same way every week. We test fate with ads. That's what we call it here. The ads come with these long episodes. I can't get the browser to accept any of my information. So, all right.
Our world has ever seen were over, and Central Europe was at peace.
That drum.
1648, end of the 30 Years' War.
Yes.
Why did you write a song about that and not 1618, the beginning of the 30 Years' War? Oh, you wrote a lot of things about the 30 Years' War.
Oh, yes. However, that song is from the album Carolus v3tReacts.
Yes.
And it covers basically the rise and fall of the Swedish Empire over 100 years. We felt the most interesting part of Sweden's involvement for, well, mostly bad, was from the end of the war.
Well, here at 1648, Sweden is dominant in Central Europe, the most powerful army, more than the French even at this point.
Yep.
You know, which is interesting because then we, as we saw in Lifetime of
Good,
War or
I'm glad,
Livstid i
Mia.
Krig, that you just ran the country right into the ground with these endless wars.
Yeah, and I mean, it's we wanted to get a bit of diversity on the album as well.
Should we do part 2?
Because for us being Swedish, singing about Swedish history, it's very easy that it becomes some sort of a glorification of the Swedish Empire. So we wanted both, well, the good and the bad, you know, both sides of the coin at least.
Well, this is also something to do with you because you're Czech, and of course, the last battle of the war, you know, it ended where it started, you know, back in Bohemia with the Swedes attacking Prague and taking half of the city and not taking the other half of the city.
Yep.
You know,
Stopped by a Jesuit professor, if I'm not mistaken.
Jesuit professor. Yeah. Now, when I lived in Prague in the early 90s, there was the Czechs would say that the Swedes still had their crown jewels, and they really wanted the crown jewels back from Sweden. So they've been asking crown jewels back from Sweden. And my thinking was that if, let's say, I take something from you, right? If I own it for 350 years, I think it's mine by then, you know? Like when I left the States at the end of 1992,
Right.
I left my records with my then girlfriend, my record collection, because I didn't think I was going to be gone that long. But, you know, I'm not going to ask for it back now. They're hers now. They are no longer my records.
Oh, you're a bigger man than me. You're a bigger man than me.
I mean, it's been nearly
No woman
30
is
years.
keeping my vinyls, you know?
Well, but you can always get them again, and you know, the Czechs could always get new crown jewels. Sure, you got. In fact, I'll tell you what. You guys write in the comments. Do you think that after having the crown jewels for now it's 370 years, the Swedes should give them back to the Czechs, or do you think after owning something for 370 years, it's yours?
I mean, yeah.
I'll see what they say.
Back.
That's a good point.
So who should have them? The Swedes or the Czechs? You guys get to choose. Imagine that war, 30 years of war, and coming back full circle, coming back to Prague again.
Yeah, and I mean, especially, I think by the time Charles X made his way down there, he actually sped ahead in front of the, what do you call it, the news.
Yeah, because they signed the peace on what, I think October 24th, and on the 25th, he was still attacking Prague. He's like, no, we got a few more days before we can still pretend that the peace isn't signed, and we can make a lot of money if we break through.
Yep.
He had 3 armies by then he had. So then he was just still Prince Carl Gustav. He hadn't become.
It's ours.
Kungen.
Yeah, because his cousin hadn't, what do you call it?
Died? Oh, abdicated.
Abdicated.
Yeah,
yes,
that's
what I'm
true.
looking
Sorry.
for.
See, you know more Swedish history.
Mia, ours.
Well, you
Let's
know where
see,
America
ours or give them
I'm
back.
pretty certain I do.
You know more history, period.
And I know more British colonial history than you do, as we
Obviously.
discovered in Rock's Drift.
Yes.
Well, whoever you are, that's it for today for Sabaton History.
So if you subscribe and if you become a patron, you have the chance to get our old Sabaton albums with in-this comments talking about the historical background of each song, similar to this video, but in an audio format. Really beautiful, really nicely done.
And that's all for today. Thank you very much, and see you soon.
We'll see you in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, because we're going to do 1648 part 2.
We got part 2 to do. Let's roll it.
I got
That
it.
was that one was definitely interesting. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, it just really points at the brutality to what it is.
I find it funny that it started at Prague and then it ended back at Prague. There at the end. That was interesting. And just like I didn't know France was in the 30 Years' War with Sweden. So that was something interesting to see. This episode as well. I think it was shown a little bit last episode too. I don't quite remember. But the fact that France was in there helping Sweden with the 30 Years' War was like, well, dang, and Sweden was big.
Yep. And really recognizing how big Sweden was crazy. Like, I knew they were a big player on the board, but I didn't know they were that big of a player on the board, if you know what I mean. Like, I didn't realize they took over that much in Northern Europe. And I'm sorry, Chad, I can't see you right this second because I am pulling up the episode for this part 2, 1648. There we go, we're back. And we should... Right? I don't know. I don't think we should honestly. Hey,
Sorry,
cheers, Pooty. Fernando, no, I don't think we should rechange those. Honestly, I mean, Sweden, you've had it for so long, just keep it. Might as well just keep it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to move on to 1648, Part 2, War and Disease. Now, obviously, this one, it looks like they're separated, so this is a newly recorded one. So it looks like
definitely
there's...
post-COVID.
Yep, and... Well, are you guys ready? Hopefully you guys are. Some people left, but that's all right. We lose them, they come, they go. Let's go.
We look at the effects of war and disease and what effects they have on each other.
And this episode of Sabaton History is being shot during the corona pandemic of 2020. I'm Indy Nidell, filming from isolation in Bavaria.
I'm Per from Sabaton, and I'm filming from isolation in Moscow.
And this is Sabaton History.
One of this was recorded when they were trying to do their shows in Moscow.
(1648) was the year the 30 Years' War ended. And that war was not just marked by great violence, but also great outbreaks of disease. That year was also near the end of the endemic series of European plagues that began with the Black Death in the 1340s. So today, I'm going to talk about war and disease in general. We are not too far past the centennial of the end of the Great War, one of the deadliest conflicts in the history of the world, where many millions of people died from bullets, shrapnel, gas, famine, and disease. However, the death toll of that war was soon surpassed by that of a pandemic so deadly that it still lives strongly in our memory today a century later, the Spanish flu. In the spring of 1918, the international news agency Reuters released the first reports from Spanish hospitals that they were seeing a communicable disease conceivably of epidemic proportions. And as the months rolled on, the death toll indeed grew to staggering numbers. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers and civilians had to be hospitalized. A second, deadlier wave of the flu struck in the autumn, just as the war was reaching its end. Now, the Meuse-Argonne offensive was the bloodiest battle for Americans during the war, claiming the lives of 26,000 U.S. soldiers. But the flu killed around 45,000 more of them behind the front lines. That is just small potatoes. Globally, for much of the fall of 1918, some 300,000 people are killed by the disease each day. Overall, more than 500 million people around the world, and possibly many more than that, would catch the flu. And the death toll lies somewhere between 40 and 100 million people. To this day, though, historians disagree on where it originated. Some say Kansas in the United States, others place it in China, or even a field hospital in northern France. It was called the Spanish flu, or Spanish lady, by the news agencies because initially, only neutral nations like Spain reported it. The warring nations all had heavy censorship of anything that might damage morale.
That's crazy.
That, of course,
Fernando.
delayed the response of their health authorities. Historians are also still unsure if the influenza had a decisive impact on the outcome of the Great War. I personally, as a World War I historian, do not think that it did. Others disagree. Yet, to this day, laboratories run bacteriological and virological tests on preserved bodies from that era to better understand
that's it.
disease epidemics and pandemics. Theses about herd immunity, mandatory quarantine, and plague circulation are based on our experiences in the past, from times when vaccines or antivirals did not exist.
That's crazy.
As two of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, war and pestilence are seldom far from each other. Even in one of the earliest known works of literature, Homer's Iliad, there is a plague of some sort. Homer might have had a basic understanding of medicine, but his audiences did not. So the cause of the disease, which strikes the Hellenic armies in front of the Trojan walls, is of unnatural and divine origin. A kidnapped priestess evoked the anger of a god, which unleashed a foul miasma of death and disease to engulf the offenders' camps. Like being struck by invisible arrows, the Greek soldiers are cut down, and the funeral fires burn unceasingly. It is the explanation of an archaic and classical
that's
world,
all you can do is burn
trying
the
to
body.
make sense of that which man could not combat.
Yeah,
Bound by
help
fear and
stop
hopelessness,
the
they
spread.
attributed the disease to the wrath of a higher power. A millennium later, the mighty warriors of Athens, who faced Persian or Spartan armies without fear, were struck down mercilessly by disease during the Peloponnesian War. Thucydides describes the symptoms in detail: high fevers, swollen tongues, blistered skin, black throat, and yellow spittle. The streets were filled with disfigured
spittle?
sick people cursing the gods
I don't know.
because they did not understand whence their torment came. And the
Chet,
doctors died
what-
as
what is
quickly
spittle?
and as often as their patients. Wars could not be fought under such circumstances. Mass
All right,
troops of men
Isaiah.
confined in camps
Thank
and
you for
forts
stopping by, bro.
were an ideal breeding ground for any infectious disease. And epidemics drained the fighting strength of armies on a scale that no enemy could, and affected the civilian populations around them, sometimes on a massive scale. Medieval Europe was most devastatingly struck by the Black Death, the plague. While we use plague to refer to a plague of something,
Hey, you made it
is
this
actually
time,
a
Daniel.
specific disease. One of the
We still got 15 minutes left of this video, so it's all good.
deadliest and most virulent communicable diseases known to man. Striking Central and East Asia in the 1330s and 1340s and reaching Europe in 1347, it would continue to haunt the world for centuries to come. Pre-plague European population levels, for example, were not reached again until after 1500. But despite the chaos, humanity was making progress when it came to understanding pandemics. Physicians drew connections between people traveling and the epicenters of disease. To prevent sickness from spreading, authorities imposed sanitary cordons around affected cities and areas, placing them under quarantine. There was still a lot of superstition. People took to religion to be spared or cured of the unknown sickness. Infected individuals were branded as cursed or plague bearers and denounced and shunned. Scapegoats like minorities, criminals, or perceived heretics fell victim to bloody reprisals. Nonetheless, quarantines were, for a long time,
screams, though.
the only
Come
way
on
to
now.
effectively fight pandemics. But in wartime, soldiers must still move from place to place. The Italian plague from 1629 to 1631 was part of a new
Yeah, I
wave
seen the
of the
Quebec.
Black Death, which
I
was
don't-
brought
I
by
don't know
traveling
about
mercenaries
today.
during
We'll
the 30
see.
Years' War. Cities like Milan,
might have to make it a
Florence, and
special.
Venice lost up to a third or even half of their populations. And there was also a devastating economic recession. That plague might well have accelerated the downfall of northern Italy as the economic powerhouse of Europe. The world was not quite free from the plague even after that. During the Great Northern War at the beginning of the 18th century, East Central Europe and the Baltics were struck by a strain of plague. Coming from the southeast, it spread through Poland, Prussia, and Scandinavia. The density of the big cities and trade hubs, as well as the massed armies marching the land, soon left whole areas ruined by the spread of the disease. Where the
Mia's on
soldiers
it today.
marched, disease followed.
Everybody
From the
follow
supply
Man's
lines,
example. Hit that
contaminated
thumbs
goods
up.
were transported to local merchants. Marauding soldiers brought the plague to remote villages, and the cities, well fortified to withstand even the strongest siege, succumbed quickly to sickness. Where the four horsemen struck, people suffered. But humanity as a whole still survived and made further progress. Although medical record keeping was poor and diagnostic analyses lacked professional standards, in addition to the quarantines, specialized plague houses and plague doctors were established to actively fight the spread of disease. For a time, even the whole Duchy of Prussia was put under quarantine, and several Danish isles were isolated from the rest of the world. The well-known Charité Hospital of Berlin was built in 1710 in front of the city walls to fight another possible outbreak of the plague. But looking at war and disease, until the end of the 19th century, it was common during any war that far more soldiers perished due to infectious diseases than from the actions of their enemies. The American Civil War is often studied in that regard, being a major, large-scale war fought not long before modern germ theory and bacteriology really took root. 2/3 of the deaths during that war can be traced to the lack of proper sanitary conditions and inadequate dietary ones that were responsible for the spread of various epidemics. Even without a major pandemic, uncontrolled infectious diseases like pneumonia, typhus, dysentery, and malaria caused hundreds of thousands of deaths.
Right, there's still
In the
all
20th
those other...
century, major advances in medicine.
Well, yeah, I mean, malaria.
The Civil War?
Well, yeah. The first
thought
vaccine,
malaria.
they put the first vaccine, the antibiotic was invented in 1928. Fernando put it in the chat, brother. Wake up a little bit.
Began changing that model. Vaccines and antibiotics began to prevent and treat diseases before they became such a problem. And although it had its fair share of trench fever and outbreaks of typhus, malaria, or other infectious diseases in areas like the Balkans, Africa, and the Middle East, the Great War did not have the epidemic disease numbers of major wars of the past. The horrible conditions in the trenches, where men lived and slept for weeks on end by their own waste, the wounded men, rotting corpses, excrement, rats, flies, lice, and fleas, all this would have led to major epidemics or pandemics in the past. But modern medicine and the advances in nutrition and sanitation mostly prevented that. Well, at least until the Spanish flu hit. Even now in the 21st century, with our medical standards, our vaccines, and chemoprophylaxis, it is easy to forget that most of humanity's history was deeply and permanently affected by plagues, infectious diseases, and deadly pandemics. When we talk about war, though, it is easier to explain it away. We can try to understand the motives, the whys and hows of people fighting and killing each other, but disease doesn't play by the rules or by moral codes. It doesn't care about rich people or poor people.
Nope.
It doesn't take sides or play favorites.
Nope.
People can be healthy today and sick tomorrow. People infect others before they themselves even show symptoms.
Vaccinated
and for us
almost.
historians, or for those interested in history in
Almost.
general, we can observe and we can show similarities or differences with the past that may help in the confinement or treatment of a disease. We can warn people of the dangers of falling back into the archaic mindset, that there has to be some mystical power that set this plague upon us with evil intentions, that it is others' fault
Right,
for
it's
our
always
misfortune,
gotta fall back
that
to
travelers or groups do not need to worry about spreading the illness, that it's out of our hands. And that is understandable. People are afraid, and rightly so, and that can easily create denial and scapegoats. But like the people of the past, we must endure and simply do our best to help each other with whatever tools we have and stop a disease from spreading in the first place, and if that is impossible, to confine and isolate it where and when we can. That is our obligation to each other.
I mean, he's got a point. It really is our obligation to each other, which is to stop it at the point. I'm sorry if you guys noticed that I'm leaning to my left here, but I've got a dog that won't leave me alone right now, and luckily she's being quiet, but she's laying right at my foot, and that's not normal. But I
got my cat at my feet, if that makes you feel better.
my dog's almost 50 pounds.
My cat's like 10.
That it was really their responsibility to stop the spread of everything. And look, I mean, just the use of masks and the fact that the flu would just annihilate people is crazy.
Back then it would annihilate people.
That's what I mean. Like, and even now, like what was it, the swine flu or whatever that came out, a different variation before they made the vaccine. It's crazy. If I have her get up here, she will sit on my lap, and that's not gonna happen.
Okay, so now I've talked a lot about the effects of a pandemic on war. Now, Per, maybe you can tell them a little bit about the effects of a pandemic on tour.
Yeah, unfortunately it's not so nice. I mean, we live very close to each other. We live in tour buses and travel around in so many different countries, meeting a lot of new people every day. So it's a common saying, and we learned it the hard way on the first tour we ever did in a tour bus, that if somebody gets sick, we all get it. On the...
Ooh.
You didn't just hear those flappy ears just annihilate my microphone? Yeah, lay back down. Stay down there.
Last tour in Europe, the Great Tour of Europe in 2020, actually we had to isolate people in the beginning due to flu. At this time, nobody really knew and thought about so much about the corona, because this was in January 2020, and corona was a thing that was mainly existing over in China at this time. But it's also, you know, a part of our job as musicians, and you know it well, you know, we can't really call the day. We are sick and we have to do the show.
Yeah. But it is funny that sometimes, you know, if you have like a really nasty cold or a flu or something and you feel rotten and you feel terrible just before the show, as soon as you're on stage for that hour and a half, you feel fine. And then you go off stage and you feel like crap again. It's really cool that works. You just don't notice that you're sick for like an hour and a half.
I mean, all of us in the band, we have had a lot of different sicknesses during tour, of course. And that is, you just lie there in a bathroom 5 minutes before the introduction starting, and you have some crew members looking at you thinking that it's impossible that this guy can do a fucking show today. And then you just rise up and go to the stage and you do the performance, and the crowd usually don't notice. But it's actually, I used to always say that, is there anything I don't like on tour? Yeah, being sick. Because not because it's horrible being sick on tour, but because you actually feel you cannot deliver to the audience what you want to give. Because it's a thing, you know, we want to be our best for every fan who ever sees a show, no matter where the show is. We want to be at our top. And then if there is a disease in our body that we can only give 50%, there's very few moments when Sabaton have not performed during sickness. Actually that has never happened. But we have performed in some other little variations of Sabaton during sickness. So in 2006 in Lübeck, there was the doctors said Joachim by no means can perform during that show. So we actually had our merchandise guy to step up and do the whole full show.
Wow.
And he learned the songs. He knew some of the songs, and he learned the other ones.
That's crazy, the merchandise
he stepped
guy.
up and did the full show. It was hilarious because the movie Rockstar had just came out.
I remember, yeah. I remember it.
He did the classic speech, I used to grow up with the posters of these guys on my walls, and now I'm one of them. So follow your dreams.
Wow. The difference in camera quality from 2006.
That was
I
one
know,
of
right?
those moments when we
now.
stepped up and did the show no matter what. And actually, not so long ago, it was happening again. It was a concert in France on the festival called Hellfest. So we had just performed in France, and it was an awesome show. And we are on the grounds of a festival that is about to start, and one of their headliners is canceling their performance. And we are basically the only band who is able to step in and take the position of headlining one of the biggest festivals in Europe, Hellfest. And early morning, I go up and I meet the promoter, and he says, "It's 100% on. The show is yours if you want to step up and do the headline show tonight." And I said, "Yeah, we can do that." So I go to my production team and I say, "Okay, we have a show tonight. Pack, unpack, load up the gear, and the stage is ours." And everybody's excited. And then a little bit later, Joachim comes up, and he can't speak. He doesn't have any voice. And I'm like, "Joachim, we have a show tonight." And he's like, But we know that Joachim is exactly like you said earlier, that once the intro starts, it just goes away and he can sing. And we go to the stage, we start the show, Joachim sounds horrible, and 40,000 people is wondering what the fuck is going on the stage. And then it's like, okay, we're gonna try something. I'm stepping out, the other guys in the band, let the lead guitarists show what they can do, and I'm stepping out. So Joachim actually went, and we had a little table in the back of the stage, a dining table, and we invited a couple of fans onto the stage to drink and eat with Joachim. And then the rest of us finished the show without him. And at the end of the show, we had 40,000 people standing with hearts like this, and saying thank you for stepping up, thank you for doing an absolutely awesome show.
Well, that is an absolutely awesome show. Wow, I wish I had been at that show, man. That sounds fantastic. Let's get Joachim sick sometime so that it can happen again.
So we have the merchandise to step up.
Oh, yeah, of course. I shouldn't actually be saying that during Corona. And now, just in case people haven't seen any of our content the last few weeks, I've actually been sick with Corona. I'm fine now, but I was sick for weeks, and it is horrible to the point where I shouldn't make any jokes about it. Now, you, Perry, you just got tested, and you just got, what did it say?
I'm
negative.
free. I'm safe.
It is negative, so you will be allowed to leave Russia and go home soon, yes?
Yes. That's
okay. That's great, which means that in the not
Which means
too
we're
distant...
soon going to film in Bavaria.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Soon we'll be able to stop doing these total isolation ones and we can isolate together. Okay, well, that is all for today. But once again, from Indy and isolation in Bavaria, goodbye.
And from Per in isolation in Moscow, thank you for this week.
See you next time on Sabaton History.
Thank you everybody for watching, and thank you everybody for supporting. And those who don't do it, click the bell, subscribe, and become a patron. Thank you very much.
Haha, video, nope. He was done talking.
Talking. That's some awesome history for today.
To hear that they had things like the coronavirus. I mean, they had the plagues back then. And
yeah.
But to hear that they did the same kind of thing that we still do till today, it's just cool. It's cool to really learn and hear these things. And I'm glad that I went along with the scheme that I did. And what you got to say?
Fun fact. If you didn't know, prairie dogs can still carry the Black Plague. Today.
Yeah.
That's a fun fact.
That's pretty cool. But that was it. Hopefully we got some people that joined the Discord. We'll see what's going on in there after the stream here shortly. If you're not in there, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button down below me. Hit the bell for notifications. Hit some comments below Raven over there to the left of the screen. And until next time, Vet Squad and everybody that's still out there, I want y'all to stay safe, be blessed, and peace out.